passionate. Scream your way up to heaven's gate. For you there are no secrets, but trust me, no one believes ya. With the heart and sex appeal of a two-faced lover, it felt so real. He doesn't know much about us when he's out of town and I'm with ya. Forget what the others will think when that shit's done right. It's so dangerous, it's so adventurous. I confess to the rumors of us. I confess to the rumors of us. I confess to the rumors of us. Oh, so dangerous. I confess to the rumors of us. I confess to the rumors of us. I confess to the rumors of us. Oh, so dangerous. I confess to the rumors of us. I confess to the rumors of us. I confess to the rumors of us. Oh, so dangerous. And call me names, but your name remains on my checklist. Text message at 3 a.m. Oh look, it's your name again. He doesn't know much about us when he's out of town and I'm with ya. Forget what the others will think when that shit's done right. It's so dangerous, it's so adventurous. I confess to the rumors of us. I confess to the rumors of us. I confess to the rumors of us. Oh, so dangerous. I confess to the rumors of us. I confess to the rumors of us. I confess to the rumors of us. Oh, so dangerous.
Music, athletics, arts, and entertainment. The Desert Tiger Podcast with Colton Geschwagner.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTP with me, your host Colton G, here on another lovely Thursday. I hope you guys are enjoying your week, and I hope that the little bit of a break that we've had since our last episode hasn't kept you guys too in withdrawal. Hopefully you guys haven't been fixing for your weekly DTP. For those of you who reached out and asked what's going on, is something wrong? Why are we missing episodes? I fell ill the first week, and the second week I just had to spend a lot of time on the phone with government officials. A lot of messed up paperwork. We're gonna leave it at that, guys. I don't want to put you through these gripes. The reasons why we didn't get to release episodes, we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna put one together. That being said, this week's episode is also not going to feature an interview. Why? I kind of want to use this as a little bit of a launching pad to tell you guys about how Desert Tiger has been evolving so quickly in the last, what has it been? Nine months now that Desert Tiger has been a thing, that it has been growing and evolving, and I want to get into a little bit of how that has affected my life and how chasing my dreams has kind of led me to a lot of different opportunities. So first off, I want to speak on a couple of those opportunities and give a very big shout out to the Nerd Corps podcast for constantly asking me to be a guest. Was not always able to accept these requests, these offers to be on their show, but I have mad love for the guys working on the Nerd Corps podcast. I listen to it every single week. They dive into film cultures, a little bit of video games, so you guys know I love video games. So I have a great time whenever I can go join them. I was a recent guest on Funky Thinkers, which is a show that is actually the guy who runs it. He is located out in the UK. That is right, the UK. So I was a guest on a show for the UK called Funky Thinkers. My episode is number 98 for that one. It's going to be a little bit before that one releases, but I had a lot of fun discussing with him just why I feel that the world has a lot of opportunity, but why I feel that also this is leading to a lot more people falling under the effects of things like depression and procrastination and other things such as the matter. Things that I have experienced myself within my lifetime. So I had a great time talking with them, and I also was a guest on another show with Lynn Henderson. So Lynn had me on her show, Inside Knowledge, where we discussed a little bit about perseverance, building resilience, what I felt the meaning of resilience is, and how I've built my life to be resilient through different accidents and things that I just couldn't control in my life. So if you guys want to go and check out my guest spots on any of those shows, you can definitely do that. The one that I did for Nerd Corps is a little outdated, but I'm going to be back on the show very soon with those guys. I'm very excited for that. The other shows were Funky Thinkers with Jonathan Sr. and Inside Knowledge with Lynn Henderson. So like I said, I did a few guest spots out there, which is fantastic. I've been trying to book as many interviews as possible, and I've also recently launched our Twitch channel. I've been working on video content for Desert Tiger. I'm getting our YouTube rolling with so it's not just audio files of the podcast, so that people can find the podcast and get introduced and subscribe like all the rest of you crazy fools do. So we've been working on that. So first off, let me get into what the podcast has allowed me to do. So as you guys know, I launched this podcast when I lived in Regina. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you're someone who joined in along the way. So when I launched this podcast, it was after breaking my wrist while I lived in Regina. Literally a few days after deciding to launch the podcast, I found out I would be moving to BC, British Columbia with my wonderful girlfriend, Jamie. And we have been having a great time out here since October. We have been here about 2 weeks less than the podcast has existed. So literally, I was getting interviews for the podcast, like my interview with Belvedere and my interview with Bellevue. I literally got in Calgary while staying at one of my best friend's apartments while driving through, while moving through. That's how dedicated I was to this show and how dedicated I've been to the craft of podcasting, to building and expanding this show. So, and I also have to give a huge shout out to my boy from Belvedere, Steve Rawls, because he was one of the first big interviews where it was in the punk scene, where it was someone that I actually had listened to for a really, 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 really long time. Because Jesus Peace had only released 2 EPs when I interviewed them. Screaming Females had a few albums under their belt, but not nearly as storied as Belvedere had been. And Alone I Walk, Beauty Kill the Beast, have not only opened up more opportunities for me, but has also allowed me to watch how they have grown. That's one thing about this podcast and doing this podcast that I just love and respect so much, is seeing the individuals that I interview and then being able to watch how they evolve and go from there, how their story continues. Like my past guest, Noah Picton. Noah Picton was actually drafted, or he was not drafted in the CFL draft, but he went on to get signed by the Toronto Argonauts, and he is still on roster, I believe. So I am very, very excited for him. I've also had other huge opportunities to see lots of musicians who are building their way and paving their own paths in different genres all across Canada. Like Too Soon Monsoon, making pop music out of the prairies, out of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. They're amazing. Calling All Captains, who have actually switched their drummer to their lead singer since I interviewed them, and actually have gone on to do so much. They're going to be touring the East Coast soon. Aviator Shades, who have been releasing a lot of music. Their drummer, Spencer, I'm actually going to have him on again because he's doing a solo project. We're going to get Spencer on, and my other guest on that show is going to be the Vito's, because Vito's is actually his backing band. It's actually crazy. Like The Wild just went to the UK. They just had a sold out tour across the entire thing. They sold so much merch, it's ridiculous. It's amazing to see how Dylan Villain and those guys have grown. Even just hearing about their first tour through Europe, when they were there with the Bastard Sons. They toured there and they had a great time, but even then they were just saying how much that they wanted to go back, and to hear that it went so well for them. Tanner Sear just dropped a killer album. I'm going through like all of our past guests here, guys. Like, this podcast has allowed me to meet so many amazing people, so many people who have accomplished so much. Like, when I got to interview the real Mackenzies, Paul Mackenzie, sitting down with him in that pub in Vancouver, like on a rainy Sunday afternoon, just sitting there with him and Dan Garrison, and it was just an amazing conversation. We had a blast, and it was mostly just listening to Paul just tell hilarious stories about the members that he's had to kick out of the band because of their hilarious antics, which, I mean, if I was in the band, would have been super headache. Ben Sinister? Being able to interview Dan Moxon of Ben Sinister was a huge opportunity for me. My friend Kaylor Coons back in Saskatchewan got me to go to a show of theirs at... Why am I blanking on the venue? I'm totally blanking on the venue, you guys. O'Hanlon's. I went to see them at O'Hanlon's, and they put on an amazing show. And that was back when I drank, so that was like over 5 years ago. And like, to kind of have that where I'd be able to interview him years later, that's crazy. Interviewing Sam Corbett of the Sheepdogs. That was my first, and definitely not the last Juno winner. That's huge for me. That's somebody who has accomplished so much. The Sheepdogs have sold platinum and gold records across Canada, across the United States. They are huge in Europe. Kenny Lush of Daggermouth. I mean, somebody who not only represents the wrestling world, and that's it, is like, this podcast started with wrestling. I didn't even mention Danny Duggan yet. This podcast started with Danny Duggan back in October, and in 9 months, CWE has almost grown so freaking much in 1 year that it makes the last 8 years just like, Danny is working his ass off every single day, and he is incredible. He's always down to hook me up with an interview. And that's one thing about some of these people that I've ended up meeting, is I have met great people. Danny Duggan will, He's down to anytime he comes near BC, I just message him up and I say, hey, I want to interview some of the wrestlers on the card. And he says, hey, just come out early. Just come out early and we will be there. We'll be there before the bell. We'll be there after the bell. And it's that sort of open arms environment, that sort of let's help each other grow thing that has helped me so much. And it's what helps him grow so much, because he's helping different wrestlers from different provinces get exposure across different markets as he is growing. Like when I spoke to him, he was touring 5 provinces. Since then, he has broken into BC. Since then, he is traveling further east than he ever has before. This next tour is going to have 29 shows, I think. That's crazy. And it's going to be headlined by Brutus the Barber Beefcake. It's amazing what everyone I've worked with is accomplishing, you guys. The opportunities that this has allowed me. I mean, whew. Yeah, Kenny Lush of Daggermouth. I mean, just to see how Daggermouth is hitting the ground running since they've came back is amazing. Kenny Lush just toured Japan on a wrestling tour, and just watching his Instagram stories were hilarious. I was laughing my ass off the entire time. Interviewing Teo Branston, 5 Alarm Funk, those guys are amazing on stage, so full of energy. And I've actually started to communicate with some of the other members of the band since then, and they are a crazy collective, but they just make some of the most amazing music that is coming out of Western Canada / Canada itself. I mean, they were nominated for a Juno, and rightfully so. The person who took it released an amazing album. I mean, whew. Oh, I mean, that episode I did where we talked about mental illness, that was the last Just Me episode, you guys, and just the outreach I received after that episode, just the thank yous, just the people who would tell me how hearing about those stories influenced them and has changed how they look at their own life and made them realize that they themselves are going through troubles like this has been overwhelming. The amount of people who have told me that they're willing to actually go to a doctor in order to try and seek out help. Like, this podcast has allowed me to positively influence my listeners' lives, not just through bringing them entertainment and interesting stories, but through helping them with mental illness at that point. And that was back in February. I'm so thankful that to those of you who reached out about that. Getting to interview someone like Brian Wallstrom, Gods of Mount Olympus, that Billy Joel on Speed, man, having that conversation about melding music was so awesome. And then, I mean, I can't forget about Danny Mac. Danny Mac was such a great interview. He was my first actor, my first director on the podcast, and if you guys haven't seen Heel Kick, it's hilarious. I didn't even watch the movie before I talked to him because my iTunes was acting up. It wouldn't accept a PayPal payment for some reason, and just hearing him speak about putting the film together just made me respect him, his craft, and everything about it, and just made me want to watch that movie. And it's actually turned out to be one of my favorite films of 2018. It's so good. Man, I have been ranting about past guests for 10 minutes, you guys. We're going to wrap this up real soon on the past guests. We're going to talk about how the podcast has evolved from just a podcast into a straight entertainment company. That's right, I actually took out the name Desert Tiger Entertainment. That's how this is growing. So let's continue down the list. Evil Ebenezer, Stomp Down Killers. One of the last hip-hop shows I saw in Saskatchewan was back when he released his album from 2015. 2015 was the last time I saw Evil Ebenezer. And then to interview him about how he's grown and how he as an individual, even just how he's not even as an artist, how he's grown as an individual and how he was preparing for becoming a father and everything, how he was getting into editing videos and all that. Amazing. Working with a folk rock band with Shred Kelly, do you guys realize the things I have done to try and pull off some of these interviews? When I interviewed Shred Kelly, I told my boss I was going to a doctor's appointment. I had them meet me at my apartment. I changed clothes to look presentable for them. We knocked out like an hour-long interview. They had to go get some breakfast. I had to get back to work. I changed back to my work clothes. I went back and I didn't even care because it was such a great interview. And then after that is 5440, the Brad Merritt interview. That's when things really fully truly exploded for the podcast. April was the month where the podcast just blew out of proportions. The Evil Ebenezer, the Shred Kelly, and the Brad Merritt interview, Danny Mac, we had more plays in like 1 month than we had like over the entire length of the podcast's duration, which is amazing. It's getting the opportunity to interview not only one of Canada's most storied musicians from one of Canada's most storied bands, most storied bassist. I am a bassist, so it was huge. Getting offered the opportunity to interview Brad Merritt from 5440, and even just the outreach I've received since that interview is amazing. The people who just loved hearing about his stories and just the experiences over 40 years of 5440, tons of amazing radio rock tracks that are still played to this day, and they're still releasing amazing music. Speaking with someone like Jeffrey Strocker, who has done so much with his piano work, from not only touring and playing charity shows for Telemiracle, which raises a ton of money in Saskatchewan every single year, to helping write an entire soundtrack to Us, which is a musical which is going to be produced in various different places across Canada now. It has grown from just Regina's Globe Theatre, a place that I went to as a kid to watch The Hobbit, to somewhere that is putting out its own plays, and they're getting the word out everywhere. Ill Vibe, oh my goodness, Ill Vibe, think about that. That interview was amazing to me. I still hype Ill Vibe to this day fully. I listen to him all the time. Like tonight when I'm working bar shift, I'm playing Illy. Just even like his business sense, his sense of musician, like the business side of being a musician and how to maneuver it, and how he loves to be unique in a world where so many people are just trying to be what's hot. It was such a great conversation. It reignited like a flame for hip hop that I had. Like I was listening to it a bit, but it was mostly just SDK and other stuff. But it's like, since Ill Vibe, I built a Canadian hip hop playlist, and I'm gonna discuss that later. And then first author, Alex McGilvery. Alex was one of the first people to buy one of Desert Tiger's first shirts. And I have huge respect for him for that. He is an amazing individual who has gone through a lot. He actually just had his apartment burnt down not too long ago, but he has been resilient. He has fought through it. He almost got forced out of Kamloops, but he fought through it. And I have mad respect for him. Another Juno winner, Sue Foley, someone who's going to be playing in Kamloops very soon, someone who I'm excited to see. If she's coming to your town in Canada anytime soon, you need to check out Sue. Felicity, one of the hottest pop-punk bands coming out of the States right now. They recently actually signed to a label after that interview. And then you guys actually heard me talk about how Danny Duggan helps hook me up with interviews. Well, Marcellus Prime was one of those individuals, one of those people that I met on one of those shows where Danny Duggan said, just come out early and we'll be here. Marcellus, even though he didn't have much time, we still knocked out a great conversation. He is a very entertaining individual, and still, I hope he comes back to Canada to tour with CWE, because he is incredible. And then from there we went to Kaitami. You guys, which is, the violinist extremist. That conversation was incredible. Speaking with her at the top of Doc Willoughby's in Kelowna, just about her passion and melding her classical music style to the EDM world and how she has been embraced by that. It's been incredible. Alone I Walk in Bellevue, round 2. That's right, the acapella extravaganza, where we loaded 4 of us inside of a van outside of Fernando's Pub in Kelowna at 1 o'clock in the morning, and we knocked out this interview. And there was a lot of smoking, there was a lot of PBRs being drank. We had a great time, such a great time that I even got the guys to give us an a cappella, the Desert Tigers' first a cappella. And from there, our last interview that we've released, the one that so many of you love, and I'm so thankful for the positive feedback, Kevin Jeffries. As someone who is a independent wrestling referee, the chance to speak to Kevin Jeffries was amazing. I couldn't believe the opportunity that I had been given by him just to speak to him about his passions, his journey, some of the people that he's got to, like, the fact that he's reffed Owen Hart, the British Bulldog, Andre the Giant, and to hear his stories about them and just how they touched his life and just how he wishes that he could have more moments with those individuals. The stories that I've been able to share on this podcast have been incredible. They've changed who I have been in as a person, and they've convinced me to chase my dreams further than just doing the interviews. And like I said, we're going to get into that. But first, I want to discuss a little bit about the interviews we're going to have in the future. I've been working so much as a carpenter. I was working so much between doing carpentry and the podcast and everything else that I was really running myself ragged, you guys, and I wasn't lining up interviews far enough in time to be able to inform you guys about who is going to be our next guests, who's going to be coming on the show and all that. And that's an apology to you guys. So now that I have quit my so-called career, now that I am no longer a carpenter, we are going to have so much more time to do that. So let's talk about some of our future guests. So I'm going to be having the guys from Living Machines on the podcast very soon. They're going to be our first true metal band. They are very thal if you're into that gent scene. I enjoy their music very much, and I plan on actually putting on some shows for them very soon. They are great dudes. Their lead singer actually plans on starting up a podcast very soon. He also writes a comic book storyline, and the storyline is actually the basis for the lyrics for Living Machines, a little bit kind of like Coheed and Cambria in a way. And Quinn, his name's Quinn McGraw, good friend, good guy. He's actually going to be putting out his own podcast as well, which also delves into his creative world and also speaks to a lot of people. So you guys should definitely keep your eyes open for that. Subscribe to it when it drops. I will let you know when it's out. So like I said, we're going to have Quinn and maybe a few of the other Living Machine guys on the show. We're going to have wrestlers like Scarlett Black on the show, the Queen of the Okanagan. We're also going to be trying to get one of the hottest talents from Eastern Canada, who is only about 18 or 19. I don't want to say the name yet because it isn't a It isn't a lock, but she said she is definitely down for an interview. If you were on the CWE tour, if you caught that, you know who I'm talking about. I am hoping to get her on the show as well. The next time CWE comes through, I'm hoping to get Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Let's be real. I mean, I'd be a fool not to. Chris Adonis is also going to be coming through soon. So you guys know I'm pushing for that. Who else are we going to have? We're going to have one of Marvel comic books writers, Ed Bryson. Ed Bryson is going to be a guest on the show. I'm going to be interviewing him next Tuesday. So that's actually going to be next week's interview or the week after that. I might go with Living Machines just because they just are working on a music video this weekend as well. That's actually why I'm going down there. I'm going to be hopefully in the music video. They're having some troubles locking down a venue. I'm going to be moshing it up real hard in that video shoot, and then we're going to lock an interview with those guys right after. Like I said, Ed Bryson, one of Western Canada's biggest hip-hop talents. Probably the prominent hip-hop rap artist in Western Canada. That probably gives it away right there. I'm not going to say the name. His people have agreed to do the interview. I'm just waiting for the day to actually get locked down before I am willing to say that it is an actual go. My boy Illy is going to be hooking me up with somebody on his label. If you guys checked out any of my Spotify playlists, maybe you have heard of Meyer Clarity. If you follow me on Instagram and you check out my stories, you've definitely seen me post about Meyer Clarity. So I'm hopefully going to be having Meyer on the show soon too. He recently released an album called Volume 1, Superheroes Don't Wear Capes. So that is where the future of the podcast is going. Oh, wait. We're also actually going to get some professional gamers on the show soon as well. I'm not going to go ahead and say who that's going to be yet, but you guys, it's going to be fantastic. We're going to be bringing in people who play shooting games like Overwatch, and we're also going to be bringing in people who play MOBAs like Dota or Heroes of the Storm. That's very exciting, and with that, we're going to bridge into the Desert Tiger Twitch channel. You guys may have heard me talk about it earlier in this episode. You have definitely heard me talk about it in the last 2 episodes at the beginning of the show. We have finally got that rolling. We have streamed for 4 days now. We are having a great time, and we just played through the Rebel side of the Marvel Civil War on Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. We're having a great time. We actually just beat the story today, and we're having a great time over on the Desert Tiger Twitch channel. It's a blast. We're going to be playing some Rocket League, and we're going to be playing some MOBAs really soon. I think I'm going to get back into Heroes of the Storm because I used to be a killer Lieutenant Morales, so I want to get back in that healing game so badly, you guys. It hurts so badly, it hurts. And of course, after we play a little bit of that, we're going to get back into the Pro Reg side of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, and then we're going to be crushing all 4 of the Batman Arkham games, that being Arkham Asylum, Arkham City Origins, and Arkham Knight. I have only played the first 2. I have not played the other 2. It has actually been a while since I played the first 2, though, so we're going to have some fun with that, and we're going to be doing all sorts of streaming when Madden comes out in PC in a month. You know I'm hype about that. If I can, I'm going to get the deluxe edition so I can pop it 3 days early and just glorify in that Madden. So once we're playing Madden 2, we'll also be playing some of our Canadian music Spotify playlists, which is another great way to bridge into, hey, have you guys checked out the Desert Tiger Podcast Canadian music playlists on Spotify yet? They are a great way to not only be reintroduced and enjoy some of the classics of various different genres in the Canadian scene, but to also be introduced newly to some of the up-and-coming musicians, some of the people who are taking the scene, they are running it, they are taking those flags and waving it and keeping things alive. So right now, I have the Desert Tiger Canadian punk and hardcore playlist. So you will find bands like Treble Charger, Sum 41, Biff Naked, all those sorts of classics, but you're also going to find a lot of bands that have been past guests on the podcast or have been featured on the podcast, like Sellout, Nicholas Rage, Chief State, Alone I Walk, Calling All Captains. The list goes on and on. Counterparts is on there. Comeback Kid is on there. Tons of bands. Daggermouth is on there, so check that out. Well, Colton, what other types of playlists do you have built? Well, I have a Canadian hip-hop and rap playlist built. That's right, it features Illy, it features Evil Ebenezer, Mercules, Meyer Clarity, Snack the Ripper, Doom Squad, Pimpton, SDGS Samurai Champs, all those people, and we also got some of the classics, some of those bangers from back in the day. We got some Chaos, we got Chaclair, we got Cardinal Official, we got Rascals, we got all those great tracks classified, all those great Canadian hip-hop artists, and some new ones that I know you're going to love. Is that it? Is it only 2? No! Why would I leave you with just 2 playlists? How about you go ahead and check out the Canadian rock and roll playlist that we have built? That's right, Canadian rock and roll. It features bands like Ben Sinister, bands like Band of Rascals, bands like Shred Kelly, all sorts of different musicians that have been guests on the podcast and some that have not been guests on the podcast, because we like to shine the light on all Canadian talent. As you guys know, we are trying to build as much of a scene as we possibly can. So who else is on the Canadian rock and roll playlist? Who are the classics on it? Well, how about Prism? How about April Wine? How about Chilliwack? How about Helix? They want to rock you. They want to rock you in this Canadian rock and roll playlist. And is that all? Is 3 all? No, not yet, folks. That's right, we also have a Canadian metal playlist that is currently being built as we speak. That is the 3rd playlist that we are working on. It features all sorts of different musicians, those big names like Protest the Hero, Devin Townsend Project, Into Eternity, Cataclysm, and also features bands like Future Guest Living Machines. We're also going to have bands like Shark Infested Daughters, who I'm going to be promoting a show for in the near future. Shh, tour hasn't been announced yet. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Who knows? Who cares? It's all going to be done. You guys don't know when the dates are. I didn't ruin anything. We have Hellhounds on there. We have Unleash the Archers on there. We have all sorts of great bands on this Canadian metal podcast already. If you guys want us to build any other Canadian music podcasts, go ahead, hit us up, email us, message us on Facebook, DM us on Instagram, Twitter us, whatever it takes. Desert Tiger Ent on pretty much everything, Desert Tiger Entertainment, or you can even hit up me, Colton Geschwantner, Colton Gesh, CG Free, nice and easy. You can do that. You can find the links to all these playlists on our Twitter. You can find the links to these playlists on our Facebook, or you can literally just look up Canadian hip hop, Canadian punk and hardcore, Canadian rock and roll, or Canadian metal. The curator's name is Desert Tiger Podcast, so it's really hard to miss, you guys. So that's another thing, is we've started doing playlist building. We're helping spread the word about the next generation of Canadian music. Not only in one genre, not 2 genres, not 3 genres, 4 and more. We're probably going to get a folk one built soon as well, because I know some of you guys love your folk music, your singer-songwriters. But that is something that we will get to in time. So, how else has Desert Tiger evolved? Well, you may have noticed that we actually no longer have one of our sponsors. This was a personal decision made by me, where I just wasn't really fond of the direction that the company was going, and I didn't really feel that it aligned with what Desert Tiger is. So rather than pushing clothing for a different company, I decided why not get some Desert Tiger shirts made. And as you guys have maybe heard me say on previous episodes, it's the best way to support the podcast other than a follow, a subscription, or a share. If those are all the free ways to support, if you're willing to spend a little bit of money so that you can wear the DTP logo with pride, the shirts are $20, $30 with shipping. You can find them on any of our social media. So that is one way that we're growing. We finally have our own merch. We're going to be getting buttons soon, probably. We have stickers, free stickers with every single order. So you guys going to have that so you can put them on your guitar cases, your vehicles. You put them on your hard hats, whatever you want to put them on, you know? That's what stickers are for. So basically, like I said, Desert Tiger has been an amazing experience so far, and I'm doubling down on it. That's what I'm here to say today. I'm doubling down on the podcast, carpentry, moved to the side. I'm working bar shifts now, working evenings. Yes, it messes up reffing a little bit, but that's okay, because if I really want to ref some matches, I'll make it work. I'm having a blast. I feel like I've taken back my life. I am doing more of the things that I have loved than I have ever done in the last, how many years? How many years? It has never been more opportunity, I feel, in the world than there is right now. And I guess what I have to say is go chase your dreams. If this podcast has been anything, it's basically a huge story for you to tell you, go and chase your dreams like my amazing guests have. Yes, there's going to be pitfalls. Yes, there's going to be shortcomings. Yes, there's going to be unexpected problems along the way, but I know that you are strong enough to get through them, and that is what the beauty of Desert Tiger has always been. It has been a platform for people to be honest, to speak the truth about what it took for them to chase their dreams and just how worth it has been for them, and in turn, it makes it even more worth it for me, and it makes it even more worth it for me when you guys reach out to me like you do, when you try and give me questions, suggestions, when you tell me that you love a past guest, an episode, when you loved a specific moment of the show. All this feedback, all this reaching out, it is all very, very fantastic, and it helps me out so much. So much, you guys. This has been an entirely self-produced, self-built project from the beginning. Self-made right here, Desert Tiger. And the only thing that is not done by self is you guys. So thank you. Thank you so much for downloading this podcast. Thank you so much for subscribing to Desert Tiger Entertainment. And I hope that I can continue to bring you great interviews. I hope that you enjoy the YouTube channel that we're going to be getting going soon. The IGTV content that we're going to be rolling soon. The streaming that we're going to be having. All the different stuff that we're going to be pulling together. It's all thanks to you guys. Yes, I did the grind, but it's just the listen and the subscribe has been enough for me to take this silly dream I had when I broke my wrist into something so much more. Dreams are possible, as long as you chase them, y'all. I think that's where I'm going to wrap this one up. Have yourselves a good week. I will see you next Thursday with a brand new interview. We're kicking it back off. It's either going to be Ed Bryson or Living Machines. I will catch you then. Peace out.
Neon lights in the dark skyline, lead me home today. If I ever go down this path again, bring me home to stay. 'Cause I ain't no stray or no runaway, I'm just a 95 renegade cliche. 'Cause I ain't no stray or no runaway, I'm just a 95 renegade cliche. Fix my ways, baby, patch me up. I'm an alternative rock cliche. Alter the course, I'm filled with remorse. I'm just a divorced parents' love cliche. Just a 95 renegade cliche. I'm just a 95 renegade cliche.